Reality begins and ends in the whisper of consciousness, or so solipsism would have you believe. At its core, solipsism is the belief that only the self is certain to exist, that all of life, from the rustling of leaves to the laughter of friends, might be no more than the shadow play of your own mind. It doesn't necessarily claim that nothing else is real. Rather, it argues that you can never know for sure. Everything you perceive, this screen, my words, the pulse in your fingertips, could be illusions conjured by your awareness, an eternal hall of mirrors where the only truth is the one who observes. This idea is seductive, in part because it holds a kernel of undeniable truth. All we ever know of reality is filtered through our own consciousness. Your thoughts shape the world you experience, but solipsism twists this into something darker, a philosophy that locks the universe within the walls of your own perception. To walk the solipsist's path is to live as the sole actor on a stage where everyone else is but a ghostly projection of your mind. The idea may feel like liberation. After all, if nothing is real, nothing can touch you, but it quickly turns into a prison of unbearable isolation. The practicality of solipsism is its first casualty. If you believe that nothing exists outside your mind, what's the point of engaging with the world? Why pursue love, work, or art if they're figments of imagination? The solipsist risks becoming paralyzed by doubt, disconnected from the rhythms of life. Imagine a painter convinced the canvas exists only in their mind. Would they still pick up the brush? Solipsism collapses the bridges that connect us to action and meaning, leaving us stranded in a landscape of pure uncertainty. And yet, solipsism matters because it forces us to ask fundamental questions about reality. What is real? How can we know? Philosophers like Descartes grappled with this, famously concluding that the act of doubting proves at least one thing: the doubter exists. I think, therefore I am becomes the bulwark against solipsism's abyss, but it doesn't answer the deeper question: what, if anything, lies beyond the self? To understand solipsism fully, we must untangle two of its main strands. Metaphysical solipsism is the belief that the self is the only reality, a cosmic bubble in which nothing else exists independently. Epistemological solipsism, by contrast, stops short of making such a bold claim. It simply states that the external world cannot be proven, leaving open the possibility that it exists, but forever beyond the reach of certainty. The first is a declaration, the second, a doubt. Both, however, reduce life to a solitary experience, erasing the vibrant interplay of connection that gives existence its color. This reduction reveals solipsism's shadow, narcissism. While solipsism isn't inherently arrogant, it stems from doubt, not higher consciousness, and inevitably centers everything on the self. It denies the independent existence of others, turning relationships into illusions and empathy into a futile exercise. If you truly believed no one else was real, would you care for their suffering? Would you listen to their joy? Solipsism risks making the self the sole arbiter of existence, collapsing the infinite web of interconnection into a single solitary point. And yet, countless spiritual traditions tell a different story. They teach that while the self is sacred, it is also a fragment of something vast and eternal. Solipsism isolates, spirituality integrates. Where solipsism sees separation, the mystic sees unity. Imagine yourself as a single drop of water. Solipsism would have you believe the ocean is an illusion, but the mystic reminds you that the drop is the ocean, inseparable from the whole. This difference is the crux of why solipsism falls short. It limits where spirituality expands, isolates where mysticism connects, and denies meaning where other paths uncover purpose. In solipsism, the self is a lonely island. In the esoteric worldview, the self is a gateway, a portal through which the universe experiences itself. Solipsism whispers that the world is meaningless. Spirituality roars that it is alive with significance. But can solipsism teach us anything? Perhaps. It reminds us to question the assumptions we take for granted, to recognize the subjectivity of our perceptions. It forces us to confront the fragility of certainty and the mystery of consciousness. But as a philosophy, it is a tool, not a destination. To linger too long in solipsism is to risk losing touch with the vibrancy of life. The dangers of solipsism are not merely philosophical, they are deeply human. It begins with emotional isolation. To live as a solipsist is to sever the bonds that tether us to each other, to see every relationship as a phantom, every act of love as self-delusion. This isolation breeds despair, for the heart cannot thrive in a vacuum. From this isolation grows a deeper rot, the erosion of empathy. If others are unreal, What reason is there to care about their suffering? Solipsism risks numbing the heart, turning compassion into a meaningless gesture. This moral detachment can lead to harmful actions, justified by the belief that no one else truly matters. Nihilism follows close behind. If nothing outside the self is real, then what is the point of anything? Solipsism can rob life of meaning, leaving a hollow shell where purpose once resided. It paralyzes perception, trapping the mind in endless loops of doubt and detachment. How do you act, love, or create when nothing feels real? Worse still, solipsism can encourage narcissistic thinking, feeding the illusion that the self is the center of all things. It becomes easy to justify selfishness, to prioritize one's own desires over the imagined needs of others. This narcissism not only distorts the individual but fractures the harmony of the collective. Philosophically, solipsism is a dead end. It offers no solutions, no growth, no way forward. It traps the mind in an echo chamber of doubt, leaving no room for the expansive questions that lead to enlightenment. It can even be misused to justify harm. If others are mere projections, their suffering becomes inconsequential, opening the door to cruelty and exploitation. And perhaps most insidiously, solipsism undermines spiritual development. The journey inward is essential, but it must eventually lead outward, toward connection and unity. Solipsism severs this path, leaving the seeker lost in the labyrinth of the self. Why then might a tyrant wish to spread solipsism? A society that believes in solipsism is a society that is fractured, isolated, and disconnected. It is a society easy to control. If people believe they are alone, they are less likely to unite, to challenge injustice, or to seek collective liberation. Solipsism feeds into the mechanisms of tyranny, keeping individuals locked in their own minds while the world around them is quietly shaped by unseen hands. Tyrants thrive on division, and solipsism is the ultimate divider, a philosophy that fractures the very foundation of shared reality. To navigate the trap of solipsism is to remember the truth it obscures, that the self is not the end of the story, but the beginning. The mind may perceive reality, but it does not create it in isolation. We are participants in a vast, interconnected dance where every thought and action ripples outward, touching lives we may never see. The self is real, but so is the other, and it is in this interplay that life finds its meaning. Solipsism may whisper that you are alone, but listen closely and you will hear a deeper truth, that you are part of something infinite, something alive, something beyond the grasp of doubt. In this realization lies liberation, not the hollow, so-called freedom of isolation, but the radiant, true freedom of unity. The walls of solipsism crumble in the face of this truth, revealing not a lonely self, but a universe that breathes as one. Thanks for watching. If you found value in this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.